Our oceans and other bodies of water tend to hold a lot of mysteries, and some of them sure are creepy. From a lot of skeletons to some things that I don't even want to know the explanation of. On today's list, I'll be covering some of the most disturbing things found by divers. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have a deep freeze. This story comes from a Reddit user called Count_Dynamo, as they recount the creepiest thing they have ever found diving. They said, "I've done a number of dives, and the strangest thing I ever saw was a large deep freezer with a heavy industrial chain wrapped around multiple times with about 5 cinder blocks attached. It was very, very rusted, and the deep freezer itself had to have been 30 plus years old, probably more. This was about 90 feet deep, just off of Vancouver Island, Canada. The situation gave myself and the other divers the newbie jeebies. Logged the GPS and depth coordinates and notified the police. We were able to find out what was inside since one of the divers had friends with local police. 10 porcelain dolls." I have a lot of questions as to what exactly is going on there, but this story definitely creeped me out. 10 porcelain dolls in a deep freezer. That's nuts. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Titanic. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. At this point, we of course all know the story of the Titanic as it is legendary, but the shipwreck wasn't actually found right away. While the Titanic sank in 1912, it wasn't found until 1985 by a former Navy captain and oceanographer named Robert Ballard. This was obviously a huge find because it gave a lot more insight into what exactly happened on that tragic historical day. It is pretty crazy that it took 73 years for the wreck to be found, but I am so glad that they eventually did. In our number 8 spot today, we have a Navy mine. This is one that wasn't found by divers, but it did wash up on a beach in Miami in 2011. Someone definitely got quite the surprise when they came across a washed up Navy training mine on the beach. What potentially could have been pretty devastating ended up being relatively fine, as the US Navy quickly came in and scooped it up to deal with it, however the Navy deals with these things. But it does make me wonder, how the heck does the Navy lose a whole mine? I guess sometimes humans misplace things, or maybe it was supposed to be disposed of and somehow ended up in the ocean, but I guess the bottom line is no one got hurt and everything was okay. Still quite the story though. In our number 7 spot today, we have 200 skeletons. In 1942, in a remote lake in the Himalayan mountains, 200 human skeletons were found, which is just way too many skeletons at one place at one time. The skeletons were thought to be soldiers who had passed away during World War II, but 62 years later in 2004, scientists were actually able to date these skeletons properly. If 200 skeletons in one place wasn't enough, they're actually from around 850 AD. That is insane! I am so glad these skeletons continued to be researched, because this was a huge difference in time from what was originally believed. These skeletons apparently belonged to tribesmen who died from a hailstorm. It is definitely pretty crazy to know that a hailstorm would have been lethal all those years ago. In our number 6 spot today, we have a lost city. This story comes from a guy whose buddy likes to dive in lakes. Apparently, when you dive in man-made lakes, you often get to see remnants of old flooded homes and communities, which is both interesting and spooky. This guy says it's cool to see all of the big fish that you can only see silhouettes of until they are right up close to you. He was lake diving one day and was over 100 feet into the water when he found a cemetery. It is so dark down in the water, I can't imagine how eerie that scene would be. Definitely something that could be put in some type of horror movie somewhere for sure. In our number 5 spot today, we have a surfer scare. So this story comes from a surfer rather than a diver about their creepiest thing they ever found in the water. This person was surfing New Zealand's West Coast beach when they felt something wrap around their leg. They saw it was a fishing line and began to pull at it, but the line got really heavy. They paddled their board closer to the shore, and a friend noticed that something was going on, so they came to help. The two of them are pulling on the fishing line and they start to see a silhouette, so they keep pulling to bring what they think is a fish to the surface. Well, this heavy fish turned out to unfortunately be a human body. They brought the body all the way to shore and of course called authorities. After all the business of finding a dead body was finished, they threw up because, to make matters worse, this body had no eyes. In our number 4 spot today, we have a gurney. This story comes from a Reddit user called Carrie19, and they said, I used to teach canoeing lessons to Boy Scout troops at a local neighborhood lake. When doing lifeguard work in the water during a swim test, my sunglasses fell off my head. I dove down to find them, and kid you not, I found a sunken, entangled hospital gurney at the bottom of the lake. It is entirely possible that the story behind the gurney getting there is totally harmless. It's really one of those things you absolutely do not want to find underwater because it really just feels uncomfortable. In our number 3 spot today, we have a shopping cart. This story comes from a Reddit user called Tiamu, and they said, when my dad was in grad school, he did some field study classes, some of which involved diving in Monterey Bay. One day he was diving and found a shopping cart with bricks and cinder blocks and a chain attached to the handle. He naturally followed the chain and found a bare foot wrapped in the chain. He assumes something probably ate the rest of the body, and apparently his friends had seen similar things too. This one definitely spooked me right out and truly sounds like an absolute nightmare. I'm definitely not envious of this person's dad on that day. In our number 2 spot today, we have a shipwreck survivor. I am so happy that I have a video to go along with this one because it is so unbelievable, you guys. A team of divers was heading to the wreckage of a boat that had capsized. There were 12 people on board and they were heading down to recover the bodies of those who had been on the boat. This was about 3 days after the boat went down, so what the divers found was completely unexpected.
Ceiling, yeah? Okay. What's that? Okay. Shit, that's horrible. Alright, you found one, yeah? He's alive! He's alive! Okay, keep him there. Keep him there. Alright. Just... Alright, just hold him there, okay? Just keep...
A 29-year-old man named Harrison O'Keen was on the boat when it went down. He found himself in an air bubble where he survived in the cold water for 3 days until he was rescued. We can obviously hear how frightened at first, but then shocked the diver is when he realizes that he's found a survivor, but I am sure not even as close to as surprised as Harrison must have been.
Reassure him, pat him on the shoulder. Okay. Alright. Alright.
I am so glad Harrison was found and rescued and ended up being okay after this undoubtedly terrifying experience. In our number 1 spot today, we have another skeleton. This story is how a diver found something extremely creepy that ended up helping solve a crime. A diver was of course diving one day when they came across a full skeleton. Finding a skeleton is never cool or normal, but what was even weirder about this skeleton is that it was wearing full dive gear, but the air tank was turned off pretty deep into the water. Of course, this diver reported the skeleton to the police because that is the only thing to really do when you come across something like this. The police ended up finding out that the skeleton belonged to a man, and this poor man was diving with his wife when she turned off his air so as to kill him. I'm sure this diver never thought he'd come across something like this, let alone have it lead to a crime being solved. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Let me know in the comments below if you have ever found something crazy while diving, because I want to know. I want to hear all of your stories. Thanks for watching this video, you guys. I've been your host, Olivia Kozlowski, and I'll see you next time. Bye! This situation gave myself and the other divers the newbie jeebies. Why is that so hard to say? Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. I don't know why I always say it so weird.